So on the outset, what I'll say before I get started, I'll do moderator's due diligence and say that the Think, Chat, Submit and the ASEC initiatives are both great initiatives. I've been talking about these issues of predatory author services for well over a year plus now at different meetings, and have become very vocal against it. It's become a passion for me. And when Think, Check, Submit came out, I said, this is great, because the issue, as I talked about earlier, we can't educate the author fast enough, so we have to start showing the author what to do and instruct them specifically what they do. Think, Chat, Submit is a point of service checklist that makes the author think. And if the author can admittedly and knowingly answer the questions correctly, they will be dissuaded from using a predatory publisher. In the ASEC situation, the Chinese government, while on the CAST site is very clear, it's in Chinese, and while that may be helping Chinese, the media, as Stephen has said, has twisted the third point quite a lot, and where that has an issue, not only on the vendor space, I don't care about the vendor space personally, it is really the English language quality that will be coming out of China if no one's using language editing services will affect the literature overall and will affect people's careers. So the clarity on point 3 for the 5 don't policy out of China is very important. And to add to what Stephen had mentioned, the CAST now has, and I'll talk about the fact that CRPR, we've sort of uncovered this, CAST has an anti-fraud unit that is actively working in the background, shutting down companies and identifying fraudulent activities of papers that are being generated out of fraudulent conference proceedings and things of this nature. So due diligence, China as a government is really taking notice and is doing something special, and the reforms are real, and I encourage them to move forward. So as I was talking about these activities over the last year plus, I started really wanting to do something about it. I identified that it is at point of service that the author has to be shown a mark or an instruction or something to make the right choice in order to shame them away from situations where they are using irresponsible providers. And so August last year, 2015, I brought forward the call to action at the ISMTE meeting for a coalition, a cross-industry coalition of responsible publication resources that is not only publisher, journal, society, university, pharma, I mean all sectors, cross-sector in the sharing of information. So what's a coalition? Exactly a group of people and communities, I'll say, it says countries there who have joined together for a common purpose. And the coalition in this sense is a common purpose of trying to save the integrity of the scholarly literature. So as a mission statement, the coalition basically has the common purpose and mission of the coalition is to help preserve the integrity of the scholarly literature by sharing industry knowledge of irresponsible, in some cases predatory practices. So sharing of industry knowledge is important, associated with academic publishing, to ensure transparency, discovery, and accountability of responsible publishing services. Now that can be a publisher, it can be an author service, it can be a translation company, it can be an educational resource, it can be anything. A responsible publishing service to industry norms, guidelines, and best practices that would be expected. And this is the key, so that academic authors can make informed decisions at point of service when seeking publication support and when publishing their scholarly works. So instead of educating the author about good publication practices, ICMG guidelines, and all these things that I say are going over their head with the angel and the devil on the author's shoulder, if you can train the author to look for a mark or to look for something specific, and that shames them away from the irresponsible activities, then half of the work is done. And so, history of the coalition, I've talked about much of this. In fact, I talked about all of that, so in the interest of time, I'll skip it. So when the coalition started in the call to action last August, we had a placeholder website. On this placeholder website at rprcoalition.org, because CRPR was taken, there are videotapes of the actual call to action sessions at the ICMT meeting. So Jeffrey Beal gave the keynote, and then I hosted 2 additional panels, one on predatory publishing, exploration of concerns, and predatory author services. Though each of those sessions are about 45 minutes of recorded video, I encourage everybody in this room to review those videos. They are a stark reminder of the landscape and the challenges that we face, and they're all there for the taking. So the coalition has been coming together, has its own Twitter feed in its infancy, marketing material in the back, the fabric banner stand, and you're going to be seeing the coalition very visible on the landscape in the coming months. I myself and others have presented at a number of places over the last year, whether it be in Canada here with Canadian Medical Association or the Canadian Science Publishing, with Wolters Kluwer, with ISMT, with a variety of places, including there was a Saudi Arabia meeting I was at, and then this session here. So the visibility is increasing, but what's most important, and it's not keeping okay, so visibility increasing, there's other ones coming up. I'll be presenting on EASE and the Korean Council of Science Editors, and then I go to China, and then possibly COASP. I'm still waiting to hear whether I can be a speaker there, but I'm hoping to be. And there's been a variety of papers that are bringing reference to this. But what's most important is that industry funding has come together. So Canadian Science Publishing, Cabell's, my own company Editage, Atlantis Press, Wolters Kluwer have put a significant sum of money into the coalition to start building the back end of what is necessary, technology and other resources. So that press release was just done in mid-May, and then there was a conference call in mid-April. What does the coalition want to do? The coalition intent, as I said, is to eventually create a way that authors can identify bogus, irresponsible, corrupt individuals or services, whether they be predatory or not. But what the coalition really wants to do is facilitate all the communication within industry. There are companies that are disconnected and are not sharing information. Those are isolated. Some companies share a lot of information, or within the same company, different large companies, they'll share information. But suspected predatory activity, industry guidelines, but it gets down to things like irregular author activity, identified fraud, known fraud, whether a paper has been submitted to a publisher in 5 different journals. Well, all the other publishers should know overnight, immediately, to look for that paper, because if they submitted it to one publisher in 5 different journals, they probably submitted it to multiple others, including email university spam filters. All these universities are spending an incredible amount of money trying to keep this email spam out of their faculty inboxes. And why can't the universities globally share these spam filters, share what's been captured, to help other universities identify and block this material? And it should be a simple function of sharing the filter captures, which I think technologically is doable. So the concept of the coalition is behind a firewall. All this information is shared in a virtual community where there's notice boards, there's directories of known or suspected or suspended members, known fraudsters, shared directories of valuable information. Dr. Chin in China may have a 123.com email address. Why should 5 different publishers have to validate who this Dr. Chin is? He doesn't have an ORCID ID. There should be some other repository of information. We have validated Dr. Chin at this university. He has this email address. Don't waste your time. We could save an incredible amount of money and time by doing so and sharing this information. So the opportunity of sharing is there. And then with respect to the badge, a simple audit, we talked about different things of how to identify publishers. Well, a predatory publisher is not going to talk and boast about where their house is in San Francisco. And if there's a simple audit of who you are, where you're registered, where your offices are, how many people you have, who you do business as a standard audit of the company, and that this audit is put behind the badge is hyperlinked to the server of the coalition, the summary of this audit could be linked behind the badge. So the badge is sitting on the services page at point of service. Someone is educated to click on the badge to see whether the badge is active, points to the server, yes, it points to the server. This company is supposed to be doing all this. If they're not and they're promising ABC, which is outrageous, they can report the company back to the coalition. So as things move on, the idea is that the coalition can start acting in unison to vet this information and clean out the bad players and identify readily the good players. So new website forthcoming, in the process of being built, but behind this website is going to be a member point of service, and in that member point of service there's going to be a rapid fire chat information thing. So in the IT industry, developers who are working on fixing bugs, they can have no idea that a bug is happening, but the intelligence of the system allows monitoring of the chatter to identify that a bug is there. And so we are taking these types of systems and we're modifying them in order to create chatter smart dialogue that systems can start identifying challenges and connecting dots between predatory activity based upon information put forward by different sectors within the industry. And this, on the back end to the CRPR, the coalition, will be a very powerful tool to be able to identify and then escalate and then notify, do blast notifications of this is happening right now, please pay attention, to the specific individuals who have been identified as part of the coalition and who have access to this information. So not all members, not all employees of all members of the coalition will have access to this very specific information. But all the information will be shared among all members, whether they're a publisher, a journal, a university, a pharmaceutical company, a vendor, and so everybody should be able to know very quickly what's going on. And so these are just screenshots of what the audit and what the current feedback form and vendor summary, audit summary looks like, and then the idea that as the audit summary goes through, we're going to be building an OGS type peer review module so that within the coalition, these audits can be reviewed by 5 people in that sector to identify that this company, yes, is a valid company working ethically, known to work ethically. They can be rejected, they can be accepted, or if there needs to be closer consideration, it all takes place before the badge is issued and the link to their audit. And so the coalition now is real, heavily funded, working towards building these tools in the back end for industry to start having this communication and this dialogue in order to help head off the irresponsible activities, but also to start building another structure to help authors identify what's right and what's wrong.